You're not lazy. You never were. You've tried the 5 a.m. alarms, the motivational playlists, the color-coded planners that lasted exactly 1 week before real life swallowed them whole. You've read the books, taken the notes, highlighted the parts that felt like revelations, and still found yourself back at square one, wondering why nothing sticks. Here's what nobody tells you. Effort without architecture is just exhaustion with ambition. The people you admire, the ones who seem to move through life with quiet momentum, they're not running on some rare reserve of discipline you were born without. They built something underneath the surface, a current that carries them forward even on the days when motivation doesn't show up. Systems. Not habits, not hacks. Systems. The difference matters more than you think. A habit is a single behavior. A system is the infrastructure that makes that behavior inevitable. One requires willpower, the other makes willpower almost irrelevant. In this video, you're going to learn 5 principles that shift you from grinding to gliding. You'll see how to stop outsourcing your progress to motivation and start building the structures that make success nearly automatic. This isn't theory. These are the principles that actually change how you operate. And once you see them, you won't be able to unsee them. If you're ready to stop grinding and start building, drop system in the comments. Let's see who's serious about this. Think about the last time you went all in on a goal, really all in, the kind where you restructured your whole day, told people about it, felt that electric first week energy buzzing through everything you did. Now think about what happened by week 3. For most people, the energy fades. The restructured day quietly reverts. The goal doesn't disappear. It just gets pushed forward. I'll restart Monday. I'll be more disciplined next month. And the cycle repeats. Not because you're weak, but because you've been playing the wrong game entirely. The productivity world has sold you a story that success is a character trait, that the people winning at life simply want it more, push harder, wake up earlier, that if you just tighten your grip on your own behavior, get more disciplined, get more motivated, the results will follow. But here's what the research actually shows. Motivation is a state, not a trait. It spikes, it crashes. It is chemically, neurologically, constitutionally unreliable. Roy Baumeister's research on willpower showed that self-control draws from a limited daily reserve. Every decision you make, every urge you resist, every moment of focus you sustain chips away at that reserve. By the time evening hits, most people are running on empty, and they blame themselves for it. You're not broken, your system is. Psychologist Herbert Simon spent decades studying how people make decisions under cognitive load. What he found is that the brain, brilliant as it is wired for efficiency above all else. When the environment is complex and decisions are constant, quality deteriorates. Not because you stop caring, because you run out of bandwidth. The person who succeeds long-term isn't the one who disciplines their way through that bandwidth shortage. It's the one who engineers their environment so the bandwidth shortage never becomes the bottleneck. That's the shift. Not more effort, better architecture. And to understand why this matters so deeply, you first need to feel just how costly the alternative really is. Every morning you wake up without a system, you begin the day already losing. Not dramatically, not in a way you'd notice at first, but there's a quiet tax being levied on your energy before you've even had coffee. What should I work on first? Should I check email now or later? Did I exercise enough this week? Should I say yes to this meeting? The questions stack up, and each one costs something, a small withdrawal from that finite daily account of cognitive energy. By mid-morning, you've spent a portion of your best thinking on decisions that don't compound. By afternoon, the important work, the creative work, the strategic work, the work that actually moves things forward, gets your leftover mind, and leftover minds make leftover progress. This is how years disappear. It's not one catastrophic failure. It's thousands of microdrains, small frictions, tiny hesitations, each one unremarkable on its own, devastating in aggregate. You look up one day and realize that for all the effort you've put in, the distance between where you are and where you wanted to be doesn't make sense. The math doesn't add up. You worked hard, you cared, and somehow it wasn't enough. That feeling isn't failure. That feeling is what living without systems actually costs you. There's also an emotional toll that rarely gets named. When you rely on motivation, you become a passenger in your own life. Good days feel like gifts. Bad days feel like character flaws. Your progress becomes hostage to your mood, your sleep, the news, the argument you had at 8 a.m. You're not building anything stable. You're surfing chaos and calling it hustle. And here's the cruelest part. The harder you try without systems, the more you reinforce the belief that success just isn't for you. That other people have something you don't. That the gap is about effort when the gap has always been about design. The cost of no system isn't just wasted time. It's wasted belief in yourself. That ends here. Because the solution isn't to try harder, it's to build smarter. Principle 1. Outsource your decisions. The first principle sounds almost too simple. Stop making so many decisions. Not because decisions don't matter, they do, but because you've been spending decision-making energy on things that don't deserve it, and paying for that waste with every goal you care about. This is what outsourcing your decisions means. You create rules, routines, and pre-commitments that make certain choices automatic, so your brain stops burning fuel on questions it's already answered. Barack Obama famously wore the same style of clothing every day. Mark Zuckerberg built his wardrobe around a single uniform. These weren't eccentric quirks, they were deliberate subtractions. By eliminating trivial decisions, they preserved bandwidth for consequential ones. Research by Jonathan Levav at Stanford confirmed this. Judges who had made more prior decisions gave measurably harsher, less considered rulings later in the day. Decision fatigue is real, and it is indiscriminate. It doesn't just affect small choices, it degrades all of them. So here's how you apply this. You build what you might call a decision ledger, a set of standing rules that govern your most repeated behaviors. Not goals, rules. The goal is exercise more. The rule is I work out at 7 a.m. on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. No exceptions, no negotiation. The goal lives in your head and requires redeciding every day. The rule lives in your calendar and requires nothing. It simply happens. The same principle applies to your work blocks, your meals, your creative time, your social commitments. Every domain where you find yourself repeatedly hesitating, negotiating with yourself, or defaulting under pressure, those are the domains crying out for a standing rule. Checklists are one of the most underestimated tools here. Pilots use them, surgeons use them, not because they lack expertise, but because expertise without a system still produces avoidable errors. A checklist converts high-stakes decisions into a repeatable, reliable process. Your morning doesn't require thought. It has a sequence. Your deep work session doesn't need motivation. It has a trigger. Stop treating each day like a blank slate. Pre-decide as much as you can. That's where your freedom actually begins. Principle 2. Trap yourself into action. Here's an uncomfortable truth. You cannot fully trust your future self. Not because your future self is lazy or weak, but because your future self will be tired, distracted, and presented with 100 reasonable-sounding reasons to delay. And without structural pressure holding the commitment in place, even your best intentions quietly dissolve. The second principle is about removing that escape route before it opens. This is the logic of what behavioral economists call commitment devices, mechanisms that lock in your future behavior today while your motivation is high and your judgment is clear. You've been using a version of this your whole life without realizing it. Setting an alarm clock is a commitment device. Buying a gym membership instead of a day pass is a commitment device. Telling your coworker you'll have something done by Friday, knowing they'll ask, is a commitment device. The difference is most people use these accidentally. The principle is to use them deliberately. Consider what Ulysses did before sailing past the sirens. He knew that once he heard their song, no amount of willpower would save him, so he had his crew bind him to the mast before the music started. He didn't trust the version of himself who would exist in that moment, so he made that version irrelevant. You can do the same thing with your goals. Sign up for the class with a non-refundable deposit. Tell your audience you're launching something on a specific date. Move the junk food out of the house before the craving hits, not during. Put your phone in another room before bed, not when you're already tempted to scroll. Build the structure while your resistance is low, so it holds when resistance inevitably spikes. Peter Gollwitz's research on implementation intentions showed that people who specified exactly when, where, and how they would perform a behavior were 2 to 3 times more likely to follow through than people who simply intended to do it. The plan isn't just preparation, the plan is the commitment. Stop negotiating with your future self. Trap him into doing the right thing before he gets a vote. Use willpower strategically. Most people treat willpower like it's a character trait, something you either have or you don't. The truth is closer to this. Willpower is a tool, and like any tool, what determines its value isn't how much of it you own, it's how intelligently you deploy it. The third principle isn't about building more willpower, it's about using what you have where it counts. Seneca wrote that wisdom isn't bravery, it's knowing what to ignore. Applied to how you spend your self-control, this is profoundly practical. Every time you use willpower to resist a temptation that could have been engineered out of your environment, you've wasted a resource. Every time you force yourself through a decision that a standing rule could have made for you, you've burned fuel unnecessarily. Strategic willpower means 2 things. First, it means protecting your peak hours. Most people have 2 to 4 hours of genuinely high-quality cognitive performance each day, typically in the morning. That window is where your hardest work, your most important decisions, and your most demanding creative output should live. Guard it aggressively. Don't fill it with email, notifications, or other people's agendas. Second, it means reserving willpower for situations where systems genuinely can't substitute. A difficult conversation, an unexpected crisis, a decision that truly requires judgment in the moment. These are the places where self-control earns its keep. Not in deciding whether to check social media for the 4th time before noon. The people who seem to have endless discipline aren't burning more of it than you. They're burning it smarter. They've automated the predictable and saved themselves for the exceptional. Think of it as a budget. You have a daily allotment. Every unnecessary choice is an unplanned expense. Every pre-committed rule is money saved. By the end of the day, you want reserves, not an overdraft. Spend your willpower like it's scarce, because it is. Principle 4. Think in mental algorithms. Every time you encounter a situation and have to figure out how to respond from scratch, you're paying a cognitive tax you don't have to pay. The fourth principle is about building mental algorithms, preloaded decision frameworks that let you move through recurring situations without burning fresh energy on each one. Charlie Munger called these mental models. He built a latticework of frameworks that he could apply across domains, economics, psychology, physics, biology, so that when a new problem appeared, he wasn't starting from zero. He was running a proven process on a new input. You don't need Munger's catalog. You need your own. Start by identifying the situations that drain you most, the ones where you find yourself spinning, second-guessing, or procrastinating. Those are the places where a personal algorithm will pay the highest dividend. Build an if-then structure around them. If a new opportunity comes in, then I evaluate it against these 3 criteria before responding. If I'm feeling overwhelmed, then I go to this specific reset sequence. If I'm in conflict with someone, then I ask this question before reacting. You're not eliminating judgment. You're channeling it through a pre-built structure that keeps you from reacting on impulse or analysis paralysis. This is also how you scale yourself. A person who responds to every situation reactively is always at the mercy of circumstance. A person with a reliable mental framework is consistent, calm, and effective in proportion to the quality of their system, not the quality of their mood that day. The goal isn't rigidity, it's fluency. Like a jazz musician who has so thoroughly internalized the scales that improvisation becomes natural rather than chaotic. Structure enables freedom, not the opposite. Build your algorithms deliberately, write them down, refine them when they fail, deploy them consistently. Think less in the moment, think more in the system. Principle 5. Become the system. The first 4 principles give you tools. This one asks you to go deeper. Because at a certain point, the goal isn't just